Hello folks and welcome to a brand new video of Fox Reacts. Today we're checking out a new vid from the film theaters about Sesame Street. Matt Pat, have you hit the bottom of the barrel? You know what, I can't say anything. Let's see what he's talking about first.
Alright guys, it's time to reveal the theory of the day. Are you ready? Okay, here I go. The theory of the day is...
Sesame Street! My friend Toothpicky here. Say hi, Toothpicky.
Custom intro.
Toothpicky says that the theory of the day is that Sesame Street has a dark secret, and that it all begins with Elmo wanting to bump off his friend's pet rock.
But I wanted to...
But that
I'm sorry,
really,
what?
the root of the problem is more systematic. Toothpicky says that in the end, what Rocco represents is older generations failing to establish proper social norms and a troubling tendency of defaulting to victim blaming.
Wow, that was
What the
very
fuck?
insightful.
Oh,
He
wait.
said all that?
Yup.
Now I'm curious. What else does Toothpicky have to say?
Crap, I cussed within the first minute. Whatever.
I deserve a raise.
2
Your
seconds.
toothpick friend is stupid, Dan. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that'll always let you have the last oatmeal raisin cookie. You know
Ew.
what's wild? My
Disgusting.
parents grew up with Sesame Street, and then I grew up with Sesame Street, and now my son Oliver can also grow up with Sesame Street, after his Paw Patrol phase, of course. This show started all the way back in 1969. It has
Nice.
run for an
Wow.
insane 52 seasons, a total
Holy
of
crap.
4,626 episodes so far. Considering
this
that the
show
Fierce
is
channels
old.
are at 931 episodes, I'd say we're doing a pretty good job of catching up. Anyway, with this show being such a prominent ingredient in the cultural stew and producing such a huge volume of content, you can bet that there's gonna be plenty of unusual things that have happened inside the old
Stranger
neighborhood.
things,
Like the
hey.
time the
What
musician
the?
Smokey Robinson got groped by the letter U, or the time they decided to dunk on Fox News.
This show is way too clean. That is it. I am changing the channel. From now on, I am watching Fox News. Now there's a trashy news show.
Or that time they turned famous actor Robert De Niro into a cabbage.
Hey, look at me, I'm a cabbage. Good source of riboflavin.
But none of that quite compares to what
What
surfaced
the
earlier
hell?
this year, when Twitter user @OneBooty tweeted a clip where Elmo flips out over his friend Zoe's pet rock, Rocco.
No, wait, Elmo. Rocco says that he wants the oatmeal raisin cookie. Rocco's a rock, Zoe. How is Rocco gonna eat that cookie, Zoe? Tell Elmo.
Watching
Ooh,
as the usually
damn,
kind and
even.
patient Elmo
Damn.
loses his cookies, literally and figuratively, over a rock made
I've
this
never
clip
seen
go
Elmo go so
absolutely
crazy.
viral, totaling over 9
even
million
in the
views, with just
Family
about
Guy.
every major news publication from Vanity Fair to Polygon to NPR covering Elmo's explosive rage. Elmo's Twitter account got involved. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson responded. Heck, Sesame Street's TikTok is
What
still
the-
leaning in. Everyone has had themselves a good old time and enjoyed their thousands of dollars in free advertising off this one clip. But then, of course, the
yeah.
internet decided to do what it does best. It dug deeper. Several cyber
Yep.
sleuths, or I suppose they could be Sesame Street superfans, found that this wasn't the only time where Elmo became just a wee bit upset by Rocco's shenanigans.
Oh, Rocco says that was a great workout.
It sure
Oh,
was,
Rocco has been
Rocco.
around for
Rocco
so
didn't
long.
even move. He's a very special rock. Go on, say hello, Rocco. Yeah, Rocco says hello. Elmo didn't hear anything.
It would seem like everyone's favorite little red monster actually has himself.
What they need to do is to actually have one episode well, it is just Zoe and Rocky, and we, the audience, could actually finally hear and see what Rocky does through Zoe's eyes. That would be better than just be like, hey, look. For like 5 seconds. Until 5 minutes, or whatever the hell.
a short fuse when it comes to this particular rock. And this caught my attention because, well, first off, it's just funny, but also because it seems so out of character for both the
Strange.
show and Elmo. Elmo is always portrayed as this incredibly kind character, and yet for some reason he has one trigger, and it's Rocco. He goes completely mask off and devolves into a fiery red ball of rage, but why? What is actually going on
What
here?
is
What's the
going on?
backstory? Is there a backstory? Why is Elmo suddenly transforming from a cute, cuddly, metaphorical monster into a literal one? Are the memes finally coming coming true? Has Elmo finally had enough and is ready to watch it all burn? Well, I looked into it,
Oh,
loyal
no, that's
theorists, and the
cool.
truth is actually much sadder than all of that. Elmo
Oh,
is far
damn it.
from the monster in these situations. There's a dark past hidden inside the history of Sesame Street's imaginary friends, and
Okay.
Elmo is the helpless victim that's currently getting steamrolled in the process. Let's start off with a bit of
Okay,
backstory here.
now I'm
Elmo's beef
intrigued.
with Rocco actually goes back much further than you might initially expect. The earliest clip that surfaced after the initial viral tweet came all the way from 1999, when Zoe
Huh,
interrupts
2 years
Elmo so
before
that
me.
Rocco can be the one to say the number of the day.
Today's number is 12. Rocco says the number is 12. Elmo is supposed to say the number of the day, not Rocco.
He
Now, 3-year-old
really
Zoe
does
having an
seem
imaginary pet
mad.
rock isn't in and of itself strange. These characters are children, after all. It's all typical behavior from a child with a growing imagination. And it's not like Elmo doesn't understand imaginary friends or pretend play either. In another episode with Rocco, Elmo has a stuffed toy that he's named Baby David. The two of them pretend to be astronauts.
Elmo's playing astronaut with Baby David. Hi, Baby David. I'm playing
That's
with
cute.
Rocco. Hello, Rocco. Hey, Elmo.
Damn.
Could you please watch Rocco for a minute? Rocco doesn't need Elmo to watch him. Rocco's just a rock. Well, rocks need watching too, Elmo. But Zoe...
Elmo obviously doesn't think that they're
Well,
literally
yeah, of course. If you don't watch the rocks, your mountains are just oh crap, my mountains are gone. And, well, shit, I should have known that was gonna happen. Well, that's why you gotta watch the rocks. Like, my mountains just walked away. Well, damn it.
floating around in space. They're just playing astronaut. So clearly he can separate fantasy from reality. So then why does he have all this animosity towards a rock imaginary friend? Because here's the thing, after digging into the relationship between these two, this rivalry happens a lot. In episode 4064, Elmo, Zoe, and an elephant are tasked with doing the Rocco dance.
That's Mr. Rocco.
And Elmo doesn't understand why other
Oh,
characters
man.
insist that Rocco is such a good dancer.
I've always wanted to dance like Rocco.
But he's a rock!
Oh, but what a dancer! Such grace!
In episode
Yes, the grace of
4424,
not moving.
Zoe insists that Rocco is getting married, and she throws a huge event complete with guests and a cake, much to the confusion and
cake?
frustration of Elmo.
Rocco has to choose a best man, see? Best man for a rock? This is the silliest thing Elmo's ever heard!
This pattern holds even
know
going as far
something's
back
up
as
when even
Rocco's
Elmo
first
calls someone
appearance in episode
silly.
3809, where Elmo straight up laughs in Zoe's face when she tries to introduce him.
Elmo, he's right
Oop,
here.
we have an ad.
See?
Hold
He's
on,
my
folks.
new
And we're back.
best friend, Rocco. But Zoe, it's a rock.
Laughing in your friend's face when she introduces you to her new friend, imaginary or otherwise. Not exactly a very kind thing to do there, Elmo. Seems
it's not really
remarkably out of
imaginary,
character
it's a
for this
physical
gentle and
rock.
sweet monster. But why? What is the actual backstory here? Well, from the creator's standpoint, this was always what they intended. Reading interviews with the writers that came out after the viral video, they intended for Elmo to always get frustrated by the whole Rocco situation. See, while the clips of Elmo getting frustrated are hilarious
Okay.
and show him being an absolute savage to this rock, the full episodes actually paint a much different picture. Yeah, in the episodes, Elmo always starts stubborn and insists that Rocco is just rock. But in basically every single situation, he either exhibits an enormous amount of patience or goes out of his way to befriend Rocco for Zoe's sake. For instance, that episode where Rocco is getting
maybe.
married, Elmo is honored when Rocco actually wants him to become the best man. In another episode, number 4077, while the group is having fun on a play date and they're swinging on a tire swing, Zoe insists that Rocco get a turn before Elmo, despite him not wanting Rocco to get a turn because, you know, it's a
It's a
rock.
rock.
Elmo eventually relents and patiently waits his turn while Rocco goes first. And during the elephant dance session that I mentioned earlier, Elmo keeps dancing for Rocco despite being knocked around by the giant elephant and Rocco's constant criticism of Elmo's moves.
To be honest, the only thing I could say about this, it would be that he has a lot of patience. But the only thing about the whole best man is that, well, it really is an honor, even if it's for a frickin' rock. Like, hey, it's like, hey, you're getting married? Let me be your best man. No? Oh, now I feel disappointed with life. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like the whole being the bridesmaids and all that. Well, looks like this is going to take a bit. I'll see all you in a moment. We're back.
That Rocco, the elephant was great, but Elmo's shooby-dooby-doos need work?
So while Elmo does tend to lose his cool whenever Rocco gets brought into the picture, by the end of the episode, he generally learns and grows from the experience. But hold on, go back to that last example. Elmo is being physically and psychologically attacked here. He's being knocked around by an elephant and made fun of for his dance moves, all of it for the benefit of Rocco. In the cookie clip, Elmo's favorite cookie is being given away to an inanimate object. And on the tire swing, Elmo winds up having to share his turn because Rocco has gone before him. And suddenly the adult Gabby has run out of time.
Who's next?
Elmo is. Rocco's in line ahead of you. It's his turn.
What?
Rocco is up next.
You know, Elmo, Rocco is next in line.
Oh, fine.
In each of these situations, and others that I'm not talking about, Zoe is always the one pulling some kind of cruel stunt on Elmo.
Look
Enough
at
so
this.
that I have to ask, is she the true monster here? It'd be one thing
Maybe.
if Zoe actually
Would
thought
make
that Rocco
sense.
was alive, but she doesn't. She understands what he is. In that infamous cookie clip, Zoe admits that Rocco isn't actually alive. He doesn't eat or breathe or grow.
It's true that Rocco really isn't alive like you and I are. He doesn't eat or breathe or grow, right?
Well, yeah.
In fact, the
He
episode
knows
that
that.
introduces Rocco also features a song that specifically says that rocks aren't alive and cannot eat.
Is a rock alive? No, it can't grow like your brother. Is a rock alive?
What
No,
the?
it can't eat like your mother.
Seems like a
Why does
very
a
clear
song like
message
that
from the
feel?
creators of the show. So Zoe understands that Rocco isn't alive. He isn't really saying all of these things to Elmo or wanting to eat his favorite type of cookie. So that would imply then that Zoe has to be the one being the real jerk here, right?
does
I mean,
make
if you go
sense.
back and watch these interactions with that fact in mind, the tone drastically shifts. All of a sudden, this isn't a case of a girl wanting her imaginary friend to have the oatmeal raisin cookie that he prefers. It's depriving Elmo of the cookie that he wants. That sequence with the
being
dancing
an
elephant,
ass
it's not
to
a girl
Elmo.
passing along constructive criticism from her imaginary friend. It's just her having an excuse to say mean things to Elmo. The incident with the swing that we mentioned earlier, it's not a girl wanting to make sure that her imaginary friend gets his turn of the fun. It's about making Elmo wait before he can have fun. It's about
And then he
control.
can't because
Zoe
the
uses
human has to
Rocco as a
lead.
means of controlling all of those around her. In fact, after Rocco gets to swing, Zoe then insists that Rocco keep swinging, further delaying Elmo's turn.
Okay, now it's Elmo's turn. Oh, what's that? Rocco says he's having such a good time. He wants to keep on swinging.
Oh my.
Not to mention that this entire situation starts because
that
Zoe
point,
interrupts
Elmo's just
Elmo's
walk
playdate with
away.
Gabby and forces Rocco into it.
There's somebody else who wants to play too. Someone else?
Someone else?
Rocco!
I thought this was like, oh god, please don't say.
Play.
And once he's in, Rocco once again steamrolls Elmo's plans.
And yep.
What are we gonna do?
Let's say the alphabet. Wait a minute. What's that, Rocco? He says he'd rather jump. But Rocco's a rock. Rock
And he can't jump.
wants to say the alphabet. But that wouldn't be fair to Rocco.
Zoe was the one who wanted to jump here.
Oh.
Rocco was just the excuse. At another point in episode 4258, despite his protests, she asks Elmo to hold Rocco's hand, only to come back and claim that he's holding something else.
That's not Rocco's hand. That's his butt. Oh, no, the gross.
It's a
Oh,
rock!
watch it there, Zoe. That is a serious
Damn
accusation
it.
you're making. You're fixing to get Elmo canceled. But in all seriousness, this is yet
Try it
another
loud.
example of her using Rocco to humiliate Elmo despite him ultimately doing what she wants. I could go on and on here, listing more and more examples, but the long and short of it is that
This is just
Zoe's
terrible
actions are just
treatment.
cruel. She's using Rocco as an excuse not just to get what she wants, but then to terrorize Elmo while getting what she wants, time
That
and
is
time again.
abuse.
So there we have it, right? Despite what we see in these viral clips, Zoe is actually the evil monster lurking on Sesame Street, tormenting and gaslighting Elmo in an unchecked reign of terror, right? Well, not exactly.
well.
You see, while Zoe isn't exactly treating Elmo
Okay,
the
what do you
best
have?
here, you have to remember, like Elmo, she's 3 years old, despite being 3 years old for the past 50 years. Either way, Zoe is a child, and just like we can't blame Elmo for his negative response to Rocco, it's not exactly fair to pin all this blame for the toxic relationship between the two on her behavior, especially when children at that age can't really understand complex topics like morality outside of just, this is right, this is wrong. No,
Yeah,
the
I
root
guess that's,
problem here actually goes much deeper in Sesame Street, all the way down to the people that are supposed to be looking after these adorable little monsters.
Oh,
See,
the
when it
humans.
comes to this Rocco situation, it's the adults on Sesame Street, both the humans and the monsters, who aren't doing what needs to be done for the best interests of either Elmo or Zoe. In every single situation
see
that I've
that
brought
now.
up here today, the adults are bending over backwards to make sure that Zoe is happy, walking the tightrope to indulge her fantasies about Rocco despite knowing that he's just a rock. Now, let me be clear, being a parent and engaging with a child's imaginary friend, great thing to do, totally fine.
It is
It is
good, but
healthy
you
to
gotta
engage
draw
engage
the
with the
line
child's
at some
fantasies
point.
to a certain degree, respecting their imagination. But the adults on Sesame Street are actually taking this to a whole nother level, a dangerous level, and it's doing more harm than good. Psychologist Dr. Samantha Rodham Witten explains that, while fostering a child's imagination is great parenting, imaginary friends can get out of hand in certain situations. You cannot let the imaginary friend turn into a way for the child to control the family, because that teaches the kids the wrong lesson. Again, think of the very first clip that brought this whole situation to light. Rocco was not only given a cookie, but at first was given Elmo's favorite cookie over Elmo. And instead of really getting down on one knee and being firm with Zoe about being fair to Elmo, the adult in the clip just kinda lets it happen.
Gabby, can Elmo have an oatmeal raisin cookie instead, please?
Gee, Elmo, that was my last one.
Back when Zoe interrupts
come
Elmo's
on.
playdate, the adult should have stepped in to defend Elmo, who was clearly uncomfortable saying no to Zoe.
Rocco!
Oh, Rocco.
And when Zoe and Elmo get into a shouting
Yeah.
match because Rocco wants to jump instead of Elmo's choice of saying the alphabet, the adult should have been the one to defuse the situation. Instead, they come up with this.
Jump! No, alphabet! Jump! Alphabet!
Maybe we can jump and say the alphabet at the same time.
Well, we could do that.
That is possible.
To say that you're fine.
Takes a
You're
lot
not
more
really
out of the
Each
lungs,
time,
though.
Elmo's wants and needs are ignored by the people around him in order
completely
to appease
shadowed.
a rock. The same thing happens with the
Damn,
swing
another
later.
ad.
Sure, the
Hold
adult
on,
checks in
folks.
to see whether Elmo
And we're back.
was okay with Rocco going first,
Are you sure you're okay with this, Elmo?
Yeah, Elmo's next anyway, Gabby.
but when she suddenly has to go and Elmo doesn't get a full turn to himself, Elmo's patience isn't rewarded. He's the one left holding the bag. And these aren't the only
Literally.
examples of adult characters letting Zoe, through the form of Rocco, walk all over Elmo. In that dancing clip that we showed you earlier, the elephant calls Rocco your greatness and sir, even forcing Elmo to make sure that he calls him Mr. Rocco.
Maybe Zoe and Elmo should switch places. If it's okay with Rocco.
That's Mr. Rocco.
The full
Whatever.
wedding that's thrown for Rocco and his bride Petra really takes it as far as it can go. An
That
expensive
was a
wedding
strange
cake is ordered,
noise.
people dress up, they stress over being late for this rock. These adults are enabling Zoe, letting her control so much of their lives and Sesame Street in an unhealthy way. And worse, they're letting her stress Elmo out,
Maybe
drive him
he'll
insane,
actually need to do
exasperate
that.
him to his breaking point.
Remove
Remember, he's
the
3.
rock.
He doesn't have the tools to understand why they're treating this rock in this way. A way that is, mind you, better than the way that they're treating him. But why? Why are these parents seemingly so scared to really put their foot down when it comes to Rocco? Well, it's sad to say, but this actually has its roots in entirely good intentions. And we can trace the reason why all the way back to the 1970s and a little character named Mr. Snuffleupagus. Yep, I'm serious. This
Hey!
conspiracy goes deep.
That's
See,
big
Rocco isn't the
balls
first time that
imaginary
Sesame Street
friend.
has addressed the idea of imaginary friends
Well,
with an
was.
ongoing storyline. Let's just
Snuffleupagus
say that the
left
way
the
they did it
cities.
before was problematic. Back in 1971, Sesame Street introduced Aloysius Snuffleupagus, a big, hairy, elephant-like monster who befriends Big Bird. It's cool. Another new character for all the others on the show to interact with, right? Except there was a problem. Big Bird was the only person who ever saw Mr. Snuffleupagus. And whenever Big Bird tried to introduce him to any of the human characters, Mr. Snuffleupagus would be gone, disappeared into thin air or lumbering off screen just in time to miss everyone.
What a day. I finally get to meet all of Bird's friends.
Let's go get our stuff and we'll meet back here.
And
Gee,
they're gone.
Bird, they were just here.
Let's go, we can use two.
Oh, they're all back. I've got to tell Bird. I just
No,
saw
go.
everybody here. I saw them all.
It got to the point that, while the human
Oh,
characters
man.
would play along with Big Bird, they didn't believe him when he said that Mr. Snuffleupagus was a real thing.
At my nest, there's Mr. Snuffleupagus.
He is?
Yes.
Now?
Yes, now.
I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to go see some imaginary animal. I want to get this finished. I want to go rest.
But I want to go meet Mr. Snuffleupagus. The wood can wait.
So much so that it became a recurring joke that would run for 14 years. And then things changed. In the
what
mid-1980s,
happened?
Sesame Street's creators saw an episode of 60 Minutes highlighting the statistics involving child abuse and neglected home. The people working on Sesame Street felt that having their adult characters refuse to believe a 6-year-old Big Bird when he's trying to tell him something could make the children watching at home think that no adults would believe them if they came forward about something serious. And so finally, they decided to introduce Mr. Snuffleupagus to the rest of the cast. In November of
See now.
1985, Big Bird was finally vindicated as the adults came face to face with Snuffy and their jaws
Look
hit
at
the
our
floor.
faces.
Told you there was a Snuffleupagus, and last, you've seen him, and you gotta believe it, right? He's not imaginary, but You never believed me.
Enter Rocco. I suspect that
Okay,
in the
okay.
aftermath of the Mr. Snuffleupagus drama, the creators of Sesame Street leaned hard, too hard, in the other direction. Now the lesson they seem to be passing along isn't just that grown-ups will believe you when you tell them things, but they'll go along with it so much that you can then use your imaginary friends to torture other kids, to control everyone around you. And none of this
And
actually
most
speaks to
parents ain't gonna
Elmo's
be
state
like
of mind.
that.
Sure, it's important to make sure that Zoe feels believed and validated, but what about Elmo? Pointing out that Rocco is just
Yeah,
a
what
rock.
about
Why
him?
aren't his accurate observations and ensuing confusion getting equally acknowledged? Instead, there's nothing. In yet another episode, Zoe ignores Elmo's protests over not wanting to watch Rocco.
Could you please watch Rocco for a minute? Rocco doesn't need Elmo to watch him. Rocco's just a rock. Rocks need watching too, Elmo. I'll be back in a minute.
But when Rocco suddenly
I made a
disappears,
joke about
guess
that
who's the
with my
one left
mountains.
having to
I don't
apologize?
even have
Elmo.
mountains.
You didn't watch Rocco for me, and now he's gone. I'm sorry, Zoe.
It wasn't his fault. He never said he would watch Rocco. It was never his responsibility.
right.
Gone? Well, he can't be gone, Elmo. I asked you to watch him.
Yeah, you did,
Elmo
but you
never
never got
said
an
yes.
affirmative answer there, Zoe. Where is Elmo's right to autonomy in this situation? Nowhere. It has no place right
Oh,
now
Rocco
on
just
Sesame
flew at him.
Street. In every Rocco scene on the show that I watched, Elmo is consistently left last on the tire swing. He's the one forced by everyone around him to give up his cookie to appease a rock. Elmo is silenced. So, is it any wonder that he'd hate this thing after so many years? But hey,
I don't blame him
that's
at
just
all.
a theory. A film theory. And cut.
And well, folks, that is where we're going to end off today's episode. So, I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Down in the description will be a link to the original video, so remember to support the original creator and all they do. And I'll see all of you folks next time. Peace out.